Sorry.
Oh, no, that was me.
No, I forgot to unmute us.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Hey, all you cool kittens and cats. It's Hey, Pal, what's new?
Isn't it all? Hey, all you cool cats and kittens.
It's something like that. God, remember that?
It's Carol Baskin.
Carol Baskin.
Killed her husband.
Whacked him. I still have a COVID mask that has like a tiger face on it. And that was the one that whenever my kids would get in the car and they forgot their mask, they had to wear the Carol Baskin.
That's right.
I'm like, you got to wear the Carol Baskin. Hey, everybody. Yeah, it's Hey, Pal, what's new? I'm Greg, and that's John Alex over there.
Motherfucker.
And we decided, that we would do what I affectionately called on the TikTok a Evil Dead Daily Double.
The Daily Double. Today's Daily Double is brought to you by One Corpse of Alex Trebek. Oh, damn. Where's my...
Oh, no.
We don't want a
now
laugh
it's
track for that.
fucking Fruit Ken Jennings, whatever his name is. He's not. My mom was like, I can't stand Ken Jennings. And I was like, look, he was a nobody.
Yep.
He was a fucking zero.
And
that
he
went
won
on
that
Jeopardy,
show.
won all those things. Now he's like hosting different things. I was like, good for him.
Well, he's on that show. He's not in one of the shows on the game show channel where it's like you have to be smarter than
the Beast.
Yeah, the Beast.
Oh, it's so bad. The game show network is on upstairs at all times.
Oh, 2020, Kate and I were like full bore into everything that was on the game show network.
Oh yeah. There's a new show actually out that's called like the Game Show Show.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like a history of game shows or something like that. But I digress.
Yeah, but Leah Remini had a fucking show on there, and it was like...
She's the people puzzler.
Oh,
I know all the stupid shows, like America Says.
Oh, America Says is a good one.
25 or Less.
Right. I like the classics. The one with the cards, with the 21, where you're trying to get to 21.
Oh, Card Sharks?
Card Sharks.
Card Sharks. Remember the Joker's Wild?
Joker's Wild.
Fucking, what's his face started doing it? Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
Joker, and a triple.
I can't with
The
Snoop
only
Dogg.
game shows I like are the ones where anybody has a really thin microphone, like those little pen ones.
Oh, yeah.
Like Match Game and Joker's Wild. Blank a doodle do. Give me cock. The only thing on my mind, Gene, is pussy. Private parts, everybody. Look it up. Anyway, but yeah, we decided, since it's a little slow news week, and I've been bugging my hetero life mate over here we talk a lot about, since Evil Dead Rise recently came out, one of the late to the parties that my friend here has never seen is the remake, and I've been hyping it up for him. So I said, dude, you got to watch the remake. And since Evil Dead Rise came out recently on demand, I watched Evil Dead Rise. So we figured, since Evil Dead, I think we're going to do like a whole, not like history of Evil Dead, but like talk about our love for the original ones.
Yeah.
Then you can go into the Fede Alvarez one, your thoughts on it, and I can tell you about the Evil Dead Rise and if it's worth your watch. But
yes. Hence the late to the party at the beginning, because this movie is 10 years old, and I just could not bring myself to watch that Evil Dead remake.
Yeah, there's a lot of horror remakes out there that, being the horror guy myself, like 9 times out of 10 they suck balls.
Oh, yeah.
They're horrible. Like Poltergeist, they did one. What was it? Now that's RoboCop.
Haunted Mansion with Eddie Murphy. No, no,
yeah, well, they're doing that one. But like House of Wax, like other ones like that, you're just like, these are fucking cash grabs.
Yep.
Like, there's been a few. But
all the Halloweens.
So when I saw that Evil Dead was doing one, and I was like, oh, you can't. Like, you need the chin. You need the chin in there. But I want to find out my friend's thoughts on it. But we could talk first about kind of the history of Evil Dead. Now, you saw... Like, what's your experience as far as, like, Evil Dead? Did you see the first one first?
Oh, I saw the first one first.
Okay.
And I believe it was Dan Farringer. Who turned me on to it. And that was back in, like, 89, maybe?
Okay.
I think the movie came out in 86 originally.
Yeah. It was definitely like it wasn't like, we weren't old enough, I don't think, to...
I wonder if it was Walter.
It could be. Walter was a good gateway for horror.
Crazy horror shit.
He's the one who made me watch Reanimator.
It actually, the Reanimator and all the H.P. Lovecraft based horror movies.
Him and Mike Gingle, because he worked at well, he still works at Fangoria.
It had to be Walter that turned me on to it, and it was Evil Dead I watched first, and then Evil Dead 2.
Okay.
But I will say, out of all the Evil Dead movies that I've watched, because I haven't watched the new one, you have.
Yeah.
My favorite has to be Army of Darkness.
Really?
Yep. Even better than Ash vs. Evil Dead, the TV show.
Now, see, yeah.
The first season of Ash vs. Evil Dead was really good.
Yeah, it's because Sam Raimi did it.
And then it went downhill.
Yeah, but I think Sam Raimi did the pilot, which you could tell immediately from that TV show. It's like, oh, it's Sam Raimi. He's got that signature style, even when he did, Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and
Everything
all that stuff. But that's interesting, yeah, because I think I was late to the party with the original Evil Dead because I watched Evil Dead 2 first.
Okay.
It had to be, if I would think about it, there was a summer, or at least 2 summers when we were in high school, where our buddy, who's been on the pod many a times, good old Mike Stolper.
Whose birthday's coming up.
Yeah. That's our sweet little boy, Mikey Stolper. Every day he would come to my house.
Right.
We talked about it on the pod before. He would call me up and be like, what's going on? Nothing. What are you doing? Nothing. You want to come over? Okay. And we rented, at one point, every freaking horror movie that was in Mayapack Video. Like, everything.
So, really quick, Evil Dead came out in 81.
Wow.
Evil Dead 2 was 87.
Okay. So, it was definitely during, I wasn't old enough to watch it, obviously in the theater.
Right.
I mean, I could have, but 87. How old was I? 71, 81, about 15. I could have. Nah, maybe not. But anyway, I digress.
Probably definitely a home video.
Oh, it was totally a VHS one. A lot of those original ones, the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Street, they were all video.
You're very gassy today.
I know. I just get very gassy. So I think it was I definitely saw Evil Dead 2 first.
Okay.
Loved it. It was just over the top, campy, comedic, very Three Stooges, very and back then at the time, some of the special effects, not really special effects, but camera work that they did, was phenomenal. The whole, everybody since then was doing the whole POV, flying into the cabin, and then the one where Bruce is just spinning around, and he did his own stunts, and it was just gory, it was funny,
Fun fact for Fun Fact Friday.
Oh, fun fact knapsack. Now it's us.
That scene at the end of I think it's Evil Dead, where the fucking camera is the demon comes flying down the fucking hill, slams through the back door of the cabin, and stops right in Bruce's face.
Yeah.
That was shot with a camera attached to a motorcycle. That fucking guy drove down the hill and was able to stop just before he hits Bruce Campbell.
Wow.
Because I was reading up on it today, because after watching the movie, I'm like, man, the way they fucking rebuild that cabin to look exactly the same, I'm like, is it the same cabin? It can't be. And apparently after the first Evil Dead movie, that fucking cabin was destroyed.
Oh, yeah.
And then eventually burnt down.
Yeah, and from what I understand, I had watched, we always talk about Dead Meat, James Dead Meat, that show.
Okay.
I actually prepared for this late to the party. I watched the kill counts on those just to kind of refresh my memory with some of it. And like I said, I saw Evil Dead Rise, and I had seen the Fede Alvarez one. I tried to get my daughter to watch it because she wanted to see Evil Dead Rise. So yeah, I mean, just the way that they filmed that first Evil Dead, it was just nobody got paid. It was 100 degrees out, that typical. It was guerrilla freaking filmmaking, and it's a classic. It's an all-time classic. Dare I say I like Evil Dead 2? Maybe just because of nostalgia purposes, I like Evil Dead 2.
Because it was the first one you saw.
It was, and it was also a little bit higher budget, and almost like Evil Dead 2 was almost like a remake of Evil Dead.
Yes,
to a point.
it was.
Because I read Fun Fact Knapsack, and now it's us. Geesh. What do you
take that, multiverse fan cast?
That's right. Now it's us. Fan Fact Knapsack.
Fuck you, Paulie boy.
Yeah, that's right. What was I saying? Oh,
Evil Dead
on Evil Dead, the remake, which I realized when I watched the kill counts, is that it really isn't a remake of it. I thought it was. It was almost like I thought it was identical, but because when they did Evil Dead 2, they didn't have the rights to the original Evil Dead, and they wanted to do like a previously on kind of like recap what's going on. So they just reshot it. They reshot it with the new budget, and it's only like 15, 20 minutes of the original Evil Dead. When you go back and you watch them both, you're like, oh shit! For the longest time, I thought I was like, well, this is supposed to be a sequel. It's like a shot for shot, almost shot for shot remake.
Yeah,
it only is for like that first 15 20 minutes. Because I think the original one, it was just the two of them. It was him and his girlfriend, right?
No, maybe.
Did more people show up?
I think more people showed up.
Yeah,
it's been a long time since I've watched the original one, but I love it probably like for the same reason you, the nostalgia of like I watched that and I was like, dude, I've never fucking seen anything like this.
No,
you see the campy, goofy, like the gate, and shit like that. But this was like when I watched it, I was like, it's not scary, but it's eerie as fucking hell.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, there's definitely some, as I got older and watched it a gazillion times, it's very, even the special effects, the practical always holds up.
Oh, yeah.
It's not too, like, jarring and stuff like that.
And that's one of the things I'm going to touch on with the new one, because it seemed like it was all practical effects.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I will say with the remake is that they were pretty consistent to what it was, but we could definitely chat on that. But and then after that, after Evil Dead 2, I went to the first Evil Dead, and I kind of was like, okay, Army of Darkness. At the time when that first came out, I did not get it. I was just like, wait,
Shop smart. Shop S-smart.
As I got older, I learned to appreciate it a lot more. But I remember when it did come out at the end, I was like, wait, he's in fucking medieval times, and like it's just like it's like Dungeons and Dragons shit. Like, what the fuck is this? Forgetting that at the end of Evil Dead 2, he lands there and all that stuff. Yep. And I enjoyed it. I was like, where did this come from, kind of thing. But as I said, as the years went on, I went to appreciate it. Now, that's your favorite one out of the three?
Yeah.
Out of the Raimi-verse, as we like to call it?
For me, only because I find it the most rewatchable one, because it's so entertaining.
Yeah.
It has a lot of gore.
Yeah.
But it's got a lot of the over-top campiness that I love from Sam Raimi, which is why I love Darkman.
Yeah.
That's one of those movies I fucking love. And I like that over the top. It's a little more polished. It's got a lot of funny fucking one-liners from Bruce Campbell. Like, like, well, what happened? You said you love me. Oh, honey, that's what we call pillow talk.
Yeah.
or when she gets all possessed and she's like, you found me beautiful once. And he's like, honey, you got ugly.
Yeah. Oh, he is a national treasure, that Bruce Campbell, and he made those movies, you know, like as much as Raimi, like they're a great team, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he is just charisma, as they say, out the ass.
I mean, even on that TV show, Bruce Campbell was on Burn Notice, where he's like a former CIA spy, whatever.
Yeah.
He was just like Mr. Slick, drinking fucking, he drank like these, not margaritas, but mojitos.
Yeah.
He was always drinking a fucking mojito. It's like he's wearing Hawaiian shirts and drinking mojitos through the whole show, and it's like, that's Bruce Campbell right there.
He does remind me of Walter a lot. Like that whole like kind of swag look to him, like hail to the king, baby. Like stuff like that. And, I mean, Bubba Hotep.
Holy shit.
You talk about freaking Bruce
Let's
Campbell.
Not go down to Bruce Campbell. That on future episode of Hey Pal, What's New, we rank our favorite Bruce Campbell movies.
And we suck his dick for an hour. Yeah.
Look, I'll suck that dick so good it won't take an hour.
That's right. Bruce, with that fucking chin will fall off his face. Just to kind of recap where we're coming from. So, yeah, the Sam Raimi ones, definitely, I think with the both of us, we hold them very near and dear to our heart.
For both nostalgia and quality.
Yeah, total rewatchability. You could still go to Mike Stolper and go, Dead. He loves it. Freaking, it was just one of those.
After watching the I don't want to say remake. I really pictured it as it's more of a reimagining. After watching that, I want to go back and watch the original Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, now see, this is a good debate about this. We'll get into now our late to the party with the Fede Alvarez Evil Dead. People said, oh, it's a remake. It's kind of a sequel.
I didn't see it as much as a sequel. So,
I don't know if
but that's okay.
Fun fact, knapsack. We're just going to keep using that shit. Too bad. there's the beginning scene when they all get there,
Right.
and she is sitting on a car, kind of like twiddling. That's the car that Bruce Campbell, that Cadillac, that's his car. So there's a scene in it where if you look at it,
right at the beginning.
yeah, it's like when they first get there and they're kind of sorting stuff out, and she's sitting on an old abandoned car, doing something with her nails or something like that. Now, the premise of this one is they all go to this cabin because this girl is currently
She's a junkie.
She's a
now,
junkie.
You're talking post the little fucking intro scene where the guy kills his daughter.
Yep.
Spoiler for a fucking 10-year-old movie.
Yeah.
It was a blue, like.
You'll see it when they introduce her on here. Yeah, because the premise of it is like they take her to this cabin to help her.
Yeah, but that's like a
There you go, right there. See that? It's a little Easter egg for you guys.
That's Bruce Campbell's Cadillac right there.
Yep, from the original one. So a lot of people are saying with this, it's not a remake at all because you look at it, it's a different premise.
Is it a Cadillac or an Oldsmobile?
Now we'd have to look at the original one, and I think that they confirmed that like that's the car that was left there. So
see, I would look at that as more of like an homage to the original one.
Mm-hmm. But the way I went into this remake was, well, they keep saying it's a remake, but to me,
Classic
it feels
Delta 88.
It feels more like a sequel to me. Like
right.
30 years later, there's this cabin. These guys, typical friends, all go to help this girl quit heroin.
Right.
Oh yeah, there you go. Evil Dead Archives.
Well, yeah, it's in the Evil Dead, and then in Crime Wave that car is in, and Evil Dead 2, it's in Darkman, it's in Army of Darkness, it's in Simple Plan.
So it's in all his movies.
Gift, it's in Spider-Man, it's in Spider-Man 2.
And there it is, Evil Dead.
It's in Drag Me to Hell, Spider-Man 3, it's Uncle Ben's car in Spider-Man 3.
Wow.
And it's in the 2013. It is the car, confirmed here. So
yeah, so
I did not know. Put that on your fucking... again, still doesn't change my opinion about the fact that I feel it's more of like it feels like more of a reimagining than a remake or a sequel.
Yeah. It's
but I can see how it's a sequel.
Yeah. I mean, but it's not, if you're into the Raimi stuff, I definitely want to get your overall review on this.
I got my overall review.
Wow, look at you.
I wrote one up.
We did some homework this time. Yeah, it's not goofy. It's not for the faint of heart.
No.
It's very gory, very creepy.
I touch on all that.
Yeah, and but I want it because since I'm going to talk more Evil Dead Rise, I'm going to have my friend here give us his review of the Evil Dead. Fetty, the Fetty one, the Feta cheese one, Feta cheese Alvarez.
So here's my thoughts on it.
Okay.
I love a good gory movie.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it's like over the top gore that like it's just purely for effect.
To a point where you see it, you're just laughing your ass off.
Exactly. And it's I'll go through my notes here. So it seems a lot more suspenseful than the original. Because I think they've left a lot of that goofiness out of it.
Oh, all of it, yeah.
But in a great way. I mean, it's much more suspenseful in a great way. I love the creative use of lighting as I'm watching it. Really like help to build that suspense. Because I hate when you're watching a movie and they just put things in the dark and be like, oh my God, there's something in the dark over there, and I can kind of make it out. The way they played with light, it was like shafts of light that really light up the character, but in a way that like you're seeing part of their face and the rest is like blacked out in darkness.
Yeah.
So that like part of it's left to your imagination, but it's fucking spooky as shit. So again, I still think of it more like a reimagining of the original story because there's so many things that are very similar that happen, like her getting her hand ripped off and all that other, the chainsaw, all those things.
Yeah, the vines and all that stuff, but they add little things to it.
Well, yeah, because that's part of the lore of the original one with the vines and what happens that transpires to raise the Evil Dead up. And so stays true to the original story and spirit. I think it really does pay a good homage to the original one, keeping that spirit of what the original movie was about. I love that freaky inbred scene in the beginning of it in the woods.
Oh yeah, just
with
those
the family.
Yeah, where they're burning her at the stake, and they're just like, "I'm sorry, baby," like, and they're all just kind of like, just the fucking inbreds are all just watching,
And then she's like, "I'm gonna kill you like your whore wife."
Yeah, I'll steal your soul.
I honestly could live without her being a fucking junkie. I mean, I get why it's there. It gives you like so many of these movies. It's like, what the fuck are they doing in a cabin in the middle of the woods that looks like that?
Yeah,
looks like it's about to fall down. I get it, but as a way to explain a lot of the shit too that happens, like why they kind of write off everything she says as she's like detoxing and shit.
Yeah, it's a good MacGuffin where it's like,
yes,
well, like, and they're like, look, because they did say in the beginning of it, like, she did go to rehab, and the last time it happened,
the volume might also be the.
It was just, I thought it was going in and out and stuff. There we go. Last time she went,
you play your cards right, buddy. It will be going in and out.
Oh boy, I hope so. They said, well, last time she went to rehab, she overdosed
and died.
So this was like their last ditch effort of like, and of course the brother feels bad because he didn't respond. So, it was a good premise.
Well, it's that over the top gore shit. Like, we didn't have any over the top gore yet when they run into the fucking basement full of dead cats.
Yeah.
And if that's not a red flag to hit the fucking road, a basement full of dead cats. Who's like, well, there's a shitload of dead cats hung up in the basement, but we'll bury them outside later and everything will be fine.
Yeah, and the one that's withdrawing she's the only one that could smell it. She's like, there's a fucking smell, I can't stop it. And they're like, oh, you're just detoxing, it's fine. But nobody else. And then the dog moves the carpet away and there's a big blood stain. Yeah, it's the typical horror movie of like, you're staying in a cabin, and it's supposed to be, from what I understand, it's the girl who's detoxing and her brother. It's like their family cabin or something like that. So it's not like, it's funny when I rewatched the original Raimi ones, it's assumed that like Bruce just broke into it. Like they were just like, oh, I found this cabin, like he didn't have any claim to it. But yeah, they open the thing. They go down there. There's 100 dead cats hanging up there, and a book, bound
in a plastic bag and barbed wire.
Yeah, but of course, there's always got to be the one asshole that has to be like, let's see what it is, And yeah, when I get into Evil Dead Rise, I'll tell you the whole premise of that. And it was a good premise.
But that's the thing is, like, in this kind of a movie, the basic premise is so unbelievable and unrealistic that you don't think about those irrational moments of the fucking basement full of dead cats. You're like, well, what, I'm going to nitpick that when fucking demons are coming up from the dead and possessing people?
Yeah, and to give them, and to, they did try to leave. She did freak out and try to leave, and the road was flooded, and she
crashed, and
similar to the regular Evil Dead, where the bridge is just like up like that,
right? And that's where it feels like a nice little mashup between Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, and in some ways even felt it could be like a prequel to Evil Dead.
Okay,
I know it's a sequel, but it kind of felt like it could be a prequel. It could fit kind of almost anywhere in the timeline. If it wasn't for, I did not pick up on that car.
Yeah,
when I was watching
I only knew that because people pointed it out, and my little kill count thing. So,
I think the attempt at copying that Sam Raimi zooming camera shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. They just can't get it, and I don't know if I'm like, let it fucking go because you're not gonna copy the way he did it.
Yeah.
His is so fast and so you feel like you're gonna throw up.
Yes,
but it's like he does it and he gets to that point where you're like, yo, this is too much, and then he stops. He knows just where to stop that the audience is gonna be like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah,
and can keep watching. And I think that helps with like the that's gross factor.
Yeah.
But I understand. From what I understand, that was limited by putting the camera. Like I said before, he put that camera on a motorcycle and fucking drove it through the woods. That's how he got those shots in the original one.
And you see it so much now after that, like in other horror movie tropes. Like it's just like that. He was the guy who started it pretty much, and it was not. Now it's so technical with drones and everything like that. Where back then, when you watched it, you were like, "How the fuck is he doing that?"
Yeah. Well, and most horror movies do those kill scenes where it's like someone gets a hatchet through the head, or someone gets stabbed through the bed, or you know, someone's looking through a hole and a fucking thing comes through and jabs them in the eye. And one of the things I've always loved about the Evil Dead movies is how ridiculous some of the the violence is.
Oh yeah.
Like in this one, my favorite one was where the guy Eric, the one girl's in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And she's like carving up her face with a piece of glass.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, "What the fuck?" And he steps back, slips on a piece of her face, cracks his head on the fucking toilet.
Oh, he cracks his back. Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
cracks
like,
his back on top.
you know.
And then he kills her by smashing her head with the toilet tank lid. Like, come on, that's ridiculous. But that's what you expect from an Evil Dead movie.
They definitely with this remake, requel, whatever you want to call it, they definitely upped the gore factor to the part where it was like, and I love all that shit, but I was even like the part where she takes the box cutter and just splits her tongue in half. You're like, oh jeez, I can't you know, like it's just over the top.
Well, I mean, and that brings me to that ending. Like, I don't know how I feel about the ending. There's always that lone survivor who's left to tell the tale.
You got to have the final girl, yeah.
But it was Bruce Campbell in the original, and in this, it's her, and it's like, I don't know how I feel about the one girl who's been possessed the entire fucking movie, and she's the one who lives.
Yeah, and the way that she comes back too is that she is totally possessed.
He buries her alive and kills her.
Yep.
And when she dies, he fucking shocks her with a makeshift defibrillator and brings her back to life.
Yeah, that was
I was like, come on.
That was a little bad.
But that's not even the end too, because then that fucking demon comes up out of the ground and is chasing her all over the place. Lifts up the car and her hand gets trapped, and she rips her hand off to get out and get the chainsaw.
Yeah,
and then the line of I'll swallow your fucking soul, and she's like, swallow this bitch.
Yeah,
and sticks the chainsaw in her mouth, and is like, for an inordinate amount of time is just sitting there with the chainsaw going, and there's just blood shooting everywhere.
They went for it.
More blood than a human body can hold.
Well, from what I understand too, which I heard about this movie, is that in order for that demon to come up, 5 people had to die.
Okay.
So when she finally dies, or when the 5th person, that's when she comes out, and it's like the final. It's like the final boss in a video game. You're like, oh fuck, I got to deal with this.
Yeah, and that's where I researched because of that cabin. I was like, is that the same cabin? I want to go there now.
Yeah.
But it's not. The original one was destroyed. The only thing that's actually left of the original one is the fireplace and stone chimney.
Okay.
And a hole in the ground where they buried the Necronomicon under. That trap door thing is the only thing left, and the area is surrounded by barbed wire because it's private property.
Now, do you know where they filmed that? I think was it in
Tennessee?
Oh, okay, it was down south or something like that.
Now look, I'm glad I waited to watch this movie because usually when you watch these kind of horror movies, most of the cast is like, who the fuck is this person? Who the hell's that person?
Yeah.
But a good amount of that cast went on to make bigger and better well, not bigger and better, but other stuff.
Yeah.
Like the main girl, Mia, is the lead girl in that TV show I talked about on previous episodes. Go back. Zoe's Infinite Playlist.
Yeah, yeah.
The dude who fucking opens up the Necronomicon and reads everything, he plays the surfer dude in that show Physical on Apple TV that I've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
And who else is there? The fucking girl Olivia. The one who was carving her face off.
Yeah.
She's on this TV show I watched that was canceled, The Resident, but she's also in Cloverfield.
Yes.
She plays Lily in Cloverfield.
Yeah. And you like it more when you see people that you know? See, for me, it's like when I watch a movie like that and it's a bunch of unknowns, I'm kind of like, oh, good. It doesn't take me out of it,
Right. It didn't take me out. It took me out for a second, but I was like, you know what? I'm a little more invested because I like every one of those actors.
That's true.
So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give this a real attentive watch because I like these people that are in it. It's like when you watch a De Niro film, you're like, this could be a piece of shit, but it's fucking De Niro, so I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, true. Like that new one that's coming out. We'll talk about it in the future. Yeah.
Sebastian Maniscalco.
Well, it looks good though.
It does look good.
Why would you do that?
So I honestly would give it a good solid 4 out of 5 pals.
Really? Okay.
Because I will watch it again. I will show it to people.
Okay.
I'll make my wife watch it.
Nice. I was shooting. I thought you'd be like a 3 out of 5 pals.
I was gonna go 3.5, but after finding out, it really what swayed me was realizing it's actually is a sequel.
Yeah.
You know, the only problem is with that car, it's in all the other things that happen apparently later in time after. Like, I feel like Ash versus Evil Dead happens post that. So why would his fucking car be?
Yeah, I think it was just like a nod to the old schoolers of like, oh, that's his car left here. So, yeah, I definitely liked it more. If you would have told me that it was a remake of like that, then I would be kind of like, I don't know, you know. But
right, I looked at it as like a remake or a reimagining, and then once you kind of confirm that it was a sequel, it's kind of been confirmed it's a sequel to the original. I'm like, all right, I kind of like it a little bit more because they're keeping that universe and stuff alive, which I hear the new one does the same thing. It has nothing to do with the original. It's its own story separately and is tied to the original one because of the book.
Yeah, and that really is the only thing that really ties, you know, Evil Dead from Evil Dead Rise.
Okay.
So if we're gonna go into Evil Dead Rise,
Let's go for it.
Let Evil Dead Rise.
Let's do this.
I watched that this week. I've been dying to see it. I don't know why. Like, it just looked like it was in that Fede Alvarez tone. So I was like, okay, I like the Fede Alvarez one. This looks very similar. But what was good about it is that the beats are different. Like you said about the whole fast, you know, stuff like that. They don't really do that in this. They do the POV thing for when the demon comes to get the woman.
Because that's how you know the demon is coming.
Yeah. Yeah, but the way that they did it and the way that they summoned the demon was, first of all, it's a different location, right? It's in a high-rise building that's falling apart in California, right? So that's different, right? It's not a cabin in the woods. You're like, okay. It centers around, now, it's not a bunch of friends, you know, brothers. It's family. So it's all based around this mother, single mother, 3 kids, and the mother's sister comes up, and she's kind of like a guitar tech or something like that. She's just kind of like a whatever. The mother, you know, the father leaves, skips town, so she's stuck in this like shitty building with her kids, and they really do love each other. It's not like there's no tension or anything like that. But the sister is kind of estranged. Now, the way that, I mean, I hope you don't mind that I'm kind of spoiling this a little bit.
Spoil the shit out of it.
Yeah. Just certain beats of it, I'll let you know. So, like, the way that they, like we were saying, they find this book, they start reading it, and even in the Fede Alvarez, where they literally wrote in the book, like, do not fucking say this shit out loud. And the guy was like, order the, and then the thing happens, right?
It wasn't Klaatu Varata Niktu.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, good that you remember that.
Well, that's from fucking what is it? The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh, yeah.
When the aliens come off the ship, they're like Klaatu Varata Niktu. That's where they got it from.
Oh, really? Okay, because I watched the Army of Darkness thing, and they were like goofing on it. They couldn't remember.
Klaatu Varata Necktie.
Yeah, I wouldn't have remembered either. Klaatu Varatu. But so the premise is they're in this building, and, you know, the kids go to get pizza or something like that, right? And they come back, and because it's in California, there's this big earthquake, and a hole falls into this. You know, there's a hole in the apartment building in the parking garage, and it's like, and they had said in it like it's like, oh, this was built over an old bank or something like that. So the hole opens, and one of the kids. One of the kids sees the hole, and it looks like it's a bank, like an old bank with vault. So like, oh, maybe there's money down there, because they're hurting for money. Obviously, they live in this shithole apartment, and they're going to tear down the apartment. So they have to get out. He goes in there, and he finds, now he's a DJ, right? So he's in his room doing his fucking, he's got all his speakers up, and he's doing all this shit. And he goes down there, and he finds these records.
Oh,
and he's like, they're old records and all these old pictures, and then he finds the book, and he puts it in his backpack. He's like, oh, this shit's cool. Like, these records, like, I'm a DJ. Maybe there's something cool on it, right?
Oh, God.
So he puts it in the backpack. They go up, and the way that the demon is summoned, which was cool, it was different. Like, first of all, it's in a different location. Second of all, so they find the book, they open it, and it's got, like, I don't know if the Fede one had it, but
it's got one of those flimsy plastic records you used to get in Mad Magazine.
Yeah, no, these were, like, actually, he's, like, blowing the dust off it, like, and it doesn't say anything on it. It's just, like, old like whatever written on it. And the book, I don't remember if the Necronomicon in the Fetty one had teeth on it.
Nope.
This one had teeth on it, right? So the teeth are like this. If you could see it, they can't open it, but he cuts his finger trying to open it.
Just like the guy in this one, he's
Yeah.
reading it, and when he flips the page in the Fetty one, he flips the page and gets a paper cut and bleeds on the book.
And that's what he tries. There's teeth on it. He's trying to open it up. He cuts his finger. The blood drips on it, and then all of a sudden it just mysteriously opens. Right now, this one in Evil Dead Rise, there's no words in it, so he can't read. He can't read and say, "Oh, recite this stuff out loud." Right. So it's just pictures, like really gruesome pictures about certain things,
Right.
like the young ones. He's like, "Oh, this is weird," So now he decides he wants to take the record. So he puts the record on, and he starts spinning. And there's 2 records. The first record is like explaining, like it's a recorded sermon of this old church, and they're talking about we found.
Now I hear the book
Mhm.
looks different than the one that was in the Raimi movies.
Yeah, well, even this one, if you look at it's very similar to that.
But this one looks like it's a book that has a fucking skin book cover.
Yeah,
Not that the cover was human flesh. But
it was,
that it was a book that they bound the outside, and you can see when he opens it up. It literally looks like an old school fucking high school book cover.
Yeah, the old freaking shopping bag
Here you go.
can cut around it.
See?
Yeah. So
like
it's a skin one. I mean, the Raimi ones had a face on it. This one does not have a face on it. And then the one in Evil Dead Rise has teeth.
Yep.
So the teeth opened up, and he's just looking through the pictures, and he decides to put the record on. He spins the record like this. Now I'm thinking he's going to spin it backwards, like the old.
Yeah.
It's Satan,
Hail Satan.
But he's spinning it like this, and he's just listening to it, and it's just like a sermon. They're talking about and you hear the people in the church like, "Don't open that. That thing is possessed." It's just like a sermon or whatever. So he goes, "Oh, that kind of sucks." Throws it off. Puts the other one on. Now he's got these big ass speakers, and he's playing it. And the second one is the priest after the sermon going like, "I decided I took it upon myself to read the book and decipher the words in it." And he starts reciting the words, and it's coming through on the speakers, and that's what starts the freaking thing.
Wow. Okay.
And the demon comes
The
in.
second you said records, I knew that was what was going to happen.
Yeah, but it was cool. It was just like he's sitting there and he's spinning it like this, and he's just like, whatever it is. And
I had it written down somewhere.
it possesses the mother. Now the mother is the main person in it that's possessed. So she's the one that's kind of going buck wild. But it's very similar to the Fetty one.
Okay.
It's that kind of not as bad, not as gory as the other one. Definitely some cringy, like, oh my God kind of shit, It's very back and forth. And what's interesting about
How come nobody ever gets stabbed in the vagina?
nobody does. Well, they had the vine go up the old.
True.
But yeah, no vagina hurt. No vaginas were hurt in this. But one thing I do notice about these Evil Deads, they love vomit.
Yes.
Like same thing that the last one, she's puking up blood. This one, she comes back up like she was doing laundry, and she comes back up, and the kids are like, "Mom, you all right?" Like, and she's all just like, ugh. Decides to go in that tub where you see the tub in the
sure.
previews and stuff, trailers, and then she's full on. Like she's burnt, like she's possessed, and she starts doing all this crazy shit. Like I love that one where she's like, "Mommy, are you okay?" She's like, "Mommy's with the maggots now." You're like, "Oh fuck," And what's great about
The
this
devil's
one,
fucking your whore sister.
yeah, stuff like that. And there's the little girl who, oh God, I can't remember the name of the thing. She cuts off a baby's head. Like the kids are all weird, right? They're all like, one's a DJ, one's a tattoo artist, and all this shit. And the little kid puts a baby head on like a stick, and I forget what she calls it. It's like something that has to do with a weapon or something like that. And she ends up using it in a way. But yeah, like it's not like once the possession starts, it's on. Like it just, they go for it. There's people in the high rise that are trying to help. They get fucked up, and then like she keeps flipping back between like because the little kid, they trap her out of the room, and you've seen it in the trailer too, where she's looking through the peephole, and it's just like, you gotta let me in. It's like, let me give you a kiss, and everything will be all right. You just come in, and the little kid's like, all right, and like you're like, no, and then she sticks her hands in, tries to choke her. There's one where like the tattoo needle goes in the face, and
there was a needle in the eye one, and not in the eyeball, like in the meat around the eye in the Fetty one.
Yeah,
and it's in that bathroom scene afterwards. The guy like goes, oh, and he's like, you think he's gonna pull like a hair out of his eye, and it's like kink, and it's a fucking sewing needle in his eyeball.
Oh yeah, and I will say they did do a good homage to the Raimi one where somebody gets in the melee outside of the apartment. One guy gets his eye just fucked up, and the eye shoots out and goes into somebody's mouth.
Nice.
I was like, there you go.
Thank you.
But it was really well done. The stakes were definitely different because A, it was a new location. B, the way they summoned the demon was cool. And C, it was very personal. Whereas like the other ones, like, there's a bunch, and in this movie too, there's a bunch of like, red shirt kind of meat hooks that are just gonna, they're gonna die. But you're worried about the family itself, and I'm not going to spoil about
the guy who's got a whole bunch of lines right in the beginning. Like, oh, that's the guy who's dying first.
Yeah, and I'm not going to spoil as far as like who survives out of the kids, but nobody's safe. There's some definite like kid death in it, where you're like, oh fuck, like there's neighbor kids that get fucking, very gory. The chainsaw makes an appearance.
It's not an Evil Dead without a chainsaw.
No, and they do something where.
You said doo-doo.
Doo-doo. You said shaft before. I didn't even say anything.
Shaft?
Yeah, you said something about shaft lighting, and I'm like, shaft.
Shut your mouth.
We're such freaking 2-year-olds. But yeah, there is one thing in it where it kind of threw me off a little bit because, as stuff happens, the book opens and you see like it's like a premonition of like what's going to happen, which was in the other Evil Deads too, like where they show
stuff was happening, and then he looks in the book, and that's the picture in the book is what's actually happening.
Yep, and they're doing that in this too. But there's one where you're like, what the hell? And it becomes like they all kind of form together for this like monster, and you're like, that kind of was like, ugh. But
I said that was my problem with the Walking Dead trailer that we talked about last week. Was that fucking conglomerated monster in the sewer that looks like a bunch of fucking zombies sewn together to make one giant zombie.
Yeah. We put everything together to make Mega Zombie.
Well, you all want to know what I'm talking about. Listen to last week's show.
Yeah. Fucking, catch up, will you?
Throw a brother a bone.
That's right, man. For some reason, Rhode Island Red is still kicking it.
That's right. Get my listen count up.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, overall with Evil Dead Rise, I would give it a good 3.5 out of 5. Definitely not. I didn't enjoy it as much as the Fetty one.
Okay.
Still, I liked the premise. I liked the change of scenery. They didn't really. It just kind of ends, and they're really. I mean, there are survivors in it, but you don't really know what's going to happen next. And the only thing that kind of threw me off was, well, there's actually in the movie there's like a bookend, right? So there's when you first watch it, there's a cabin in the woods, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, how did this, do this? And they show some possession there, and then they go right to the
high rise.
The high rise, and you're like, what the fuck does that have to do with that? But then at the end, that's where they show like, oh, 1 day later, and this is like how they got the book. Because you're like, the whole time you're going like, how did this book go from a cabin in the woods in the middle of nowhere to an apartment building in there? So they kind of explained it that way. And in the beginning, you're just kind of like, why are they doing this cabin shit? Like, I thought it was based in a thing, but then they kind of explain. And it does have the best fucking title card at all of them.
Okay.
Where this woman rises out of the water, and just behind her in the background just says Evil Dead Rise. The way it's shot, it's like, oh my God, that's so cool.
I'm going to have to watch it.
But it's on demand now.
Right.
So you can...
it's not on HBO Max. You have to pay for it.
Yeah. I actually paid the $20 for it.
Oh, you sucker.
I know. I had to. because I'm definitely glad I didn't rush to see it in the theater. Although it probably would have been a cool experience, but at the same time, I was like, I'm good for waiting.
Mandy was telling me it wasn't moving a lot in the theater.
No, and we could talk, I'm sure, on future episodes about how the window between theater and on demand is so fast now.
Oh my god!
So, it's
Fucking Quantumania's out already.
Yeah, it's short attention span theater. It's like 30 days now. They used to do 3. Remember, it used to be like 3 months.
Yeah.
Now it's like 30 days because there's so much content. But anyway,
sometimes it's still in the theaters while you're watching it on demand.
Yeah, kind of like when we used to go to the Dirt Mall and go to the $2 Tuesday movies.
That's right.
Where you'd be like, "Hey, isn't this on DVD now?" You're like, whatever. I just want to see it in the theater." They had
They used to do the Hudson Valley Horrors.
They still do.
Film festival there. Well, that theater's not there anymore. That's where they used to do it, in the old South Hills Mall.
Oh, I thought they were still doing it at that place.
Oh, no, that's not even there anymore.
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean, the last time I went there was to bring it all around, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
There you go.
I saw it again in the theater, and I wanted to see it, before it went to video or something like that.
That's my wife. I sent her like 2 hi texts, like hi. She's
Hi.
like nothing.
Hi.
Cricket.
It's like the Tucky. Hi. Which I actually, I'll leave you at this. I actually showed Manal the Tucky.
Ooh.
And she was like, don't ever do that again.
the mangina.
The mangina, but you have to do it like Shagger Dave did. Hi. He used to do the mangina and do hi. So.
No, thank you.
Yeah, so anyway, that is our Evil Dead Daily Double.
The double.
Take care, brush your hair, make sure sackofsin.com. Check out the latest stuff on the showcase information, which, August 12th, man. I believe on last week's episode we talked about it a lot more. But, yeah, definitely tickets. It's free. Bring your freaking lawn chairs.
That's right. Bring your lawn chairs.
Bring your coolers. Bring your blankets.
That's right.
Yeah, and,
remember, if it feels good and no one's getting hurt, just keep doing it.